A Yiddish expression, schwer zu sein a Yid. It is hard to be a Jew. And today we could add to that, it is hard to be a Zionist. And we could add to that, some might, some would, it's hard to be a member of the LGBTQ plus community. And when we put them all together, if you are a queer Zionist Jew, it's really, really, really hard sometimes. We know these are lonely days for Jews. We know these are lonely days for Zionists. We know these can be lonely days for queer people. And when you put them all together, it can be, not for all, but for too many, really, really, really lonely. 3 times lonely. Not only are the hard-won rights now under threat of being turned backwards for queer Canadians and trans Canadians in particular, but queer Jews are also finding, too often now, they are shut out from organized advocacy circles simply because they are Jewish, or simply because they are Zionist, or simply because they believe that Israel has the right to exist. It's a very strange twist in recent history. When Jews were at the forefront of the gay rights movement, when Jews were there for the legal battles and the cultural battles, now we find that we and our allies are more often than not no longer welcome in many of these activist circles. And this is terribly hurtful. And while a parallel story is happening in many other progressive spaces, among the arts, among academia, and in many justice-seeking movements, tonight, during this Pride Month, we want to call attention to the unique story of the LGBTQ plus siblings and the people who love them. Our only wish tonight is to simply recognize you for who you are, for exactly who you are, and to celebrate the wins that we've seen over the years that we've accomplished together, and there are many. And also, I pray to help you feel a little less lonely, a little more understood, a little more appreciated during these trying times. Here in this holy place, on this holy night of Shabbat, we say, do not hide any part of your identity. Not the Jewish part, not the Zionist part, not the queer part, because you are one person. The last 8 months, I find myself telling a lot of stories from Israel. Israel's most famous Pride Parade is in Tel Aviv, of course, and it was canceled this year because of the war and the hostage crisis. Instead, throughout the city, rainbow flags were flying with a very wide yellow stripe for the hostages. The Beersheba parade was reconceived as a rally of pride and hope. But to the surprise of many, the Jerusalem Pride Parade went forward. The mood was solemn, and the parade was designed to be in solidarity with the families of the hostages. Jonathan Zelfer, the chair of the Jerusalem-based Open House, LGBTQ nonprofit, explained, the march we organized this year is consistent with the situation. We are LGBT, but first of all, we are Israelis, and our hearts are with the fallen and with the hostages. And at this Pride Parade, the opposition leader, Yael Lapid, addressed the crowd, which I should say was significantly diminished. There were 10,000 people gathered, which was just 1/3 of last year's gathering because of the mood in the country, Lapid said, "We need to fight anti-Semitism just as we need to fight the hatred of LGBT people. It's exactly the same thing to hate people not because of anything they did, but because of who they are." And Nadav Rudaif, the son of Lior, whose body is held hostage by Hamas in Gaza, told the crowd that the struggle for LGBTQ rights and the hostages' plight are linked by a human, ethical, and moral connection. And one other distinguished spokesperson at the event was Sheila Weinberg. She is a member of the Kiryat Tivon Municipal Council and is the first transgender elected official in Israeli history. But the most moving address, and you may have read about it, came from Omer Ohana, the fiancé of slain soldier Major Sagi Golan. And I want everyone to know their story. Sagi, for his compulsory military service, had been accepted into the prestigious 8200 intelligence unit, whose graduates often go on to high-earning, high-tech, and business careers. But Sagi chose instead to enter a combat unit and finished his service with an elite special unit dealing with counterterrorism. Omer and Sagi met 6 years ago, and 1 year ago, Sagi proposed at the top of a volcano in the Canary Islands. And everything was set for them to be married on October 20th. On the morning of October 7th, Sagi and Omer, both in high tech, woke up in their Herzliya apartment, turned on the radio to listen to the news as they do every morning. Omer recalls no one even had a chance to call Sagi to report for reserve duty. He jumped out of bed, had his uniform in hand, brushed his teeth, and within just a few minutes, we were at the front door. He gave me a kiss on the lips, and he said, "I'll be back in less than a week." Sagi was killed that very day, leading his troop in the fierce battle to take back Kibbutz Be'eri from Hamas terrorists. 3 long and dark days followed. There was only silence and confusion. In the fog of war, no one could confirm or report on Sagi's death. And when the news finally did come and arrangements were made for his funeral, Omer knew exactly what to do. They had planned to walk down the aisle to the song "I Was Fortunate to Love" by Israeli star Ivri Lider. Instead, Lider, who himself is a gay artist, sang that song at Sagi's funeral. And the white cotton flowers that were purchased to adorn their wedding tables were instead woven into a funeral wreath for Sagi. The sad story continues when Omer was initially not recognized as a bereaved family member after Sagi's death. The soldier who was sent to deliver the bitter news needed a signature, but there was no place on the form for a male partner. "It made me so angry," Omer said. "I was the one who loved him, and I'm not taken into account, and he wasn't taken into account." After Sagi and his many supporters made a very big noise, and after Lapid went on record saying, quote, "The state of Israel must treat Omer exactly as they treat any spouse of a fallen warrior. If Sagi is good enough to die for his country, he deserves that, and he deserves that his own country will respect the person that his heart chose and allow him to have a child and embrace him with love. I promise you, Omer," Lapid says, "I will be by your side." So not long after, Defense Minister Gallant amended the policy to formally include same-sex couples under the laws pertaining to families of fallen IDF soldiers. Now, who is the child that Lapid spoke of? You see, Sagi and Omer already had plans for a family with the help of a surrogate. Sagi's mother, Eti, said in an interview on Israeli television, "There is no reason in the world for the state of Israel not to honor my son's wishes to have a child. And under no circumstances will Omer not be recognized as the father of my future grandchild." So God willing, this tragic story of courage and commitment, of love and loss, will soon have another chapter, when we will hear the news of a baby born to Omer, who will raise that child on the stories of Sagi's pride. Pride in the Jewish state, pride in the IDF, and pride in the love that he knew with Omer. Now, I share this story with you tonight to draw us closer to Israelis and to the sacrifices they are making. I share this story tonight so that we can salute Sagi for his service, for his impulse to run towards the danger. Thanks to his bravery and the bravery of his unit, many were spared on Kibbutz Be'eri. And I share this story so we can honor Omer's example of successful activism in making the Jewish state more democratic, more just, more loving. And I share this story because it's all one story. It's all our story. Tonight, we celebrate the undeniable fact that love is love. We celebrate the evolution of Jewish ritual practice to include authentically Jewish weddings for LGBTQ+ people. We celebrate the rising generations who get all this instinctively and fluently and are teaching the rest of us how to get it, what's so obvious. We need role models. We need to be taught. We need to learn. Ahavat olam, we prayed just moments ago. Unending love. Ahavat olam, endless, boundless love. That is what you, O God, have shown us, your people, the house of Israel. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Praised are you, O God, who loves each and every one of your people, Israel. Amen.